So last year I was looking for portrait painting tutorials and I came across one that stood out because it was really, really good teaching. There's not that many really good artists who are also really good teachers, and it was Emily Hughes. And so I started checking out her videos and I noticed something really cool, which is if you go back, each year, her art is evolving and changing, like in front of our eyes. You can go back on her Instagram, same thing. So this means she's got a really fun story, right? In just recent years, she's seeing lots of technical progression, and she's seeing, the discovery of her own style, the stuff that she loves, what she wants to make. So how is she doing that? How is she constantly progressing and upping her game every single year? Well, I was able to interview her, which was really, really nice. And I did not expect the 3 breakthroughs for her. I didn't expect at all. So the first one is really, really cool. So here she is to explain it. We're coming in through 2020 here. Your skills are improving. You're consistently practicing. Is it fair to say, like through these years, you're pretty consistently.
Yeah, I'm at art school, so it is like every day practicing, whether I like to or not. Huge improvements in those 4 years for sure. So those the paintings, the one with the frog towel,
Yeah.
with the baby in the hand, and then the one above that, those ones were for, I believe, my final project at university. It
Okay.
was like a big series, or at least it was like leading up to that final project. And I was doing, these are oil paintings, and I was doing paintings from old family photos. And I think that really helped me with values because like they bump the contrast up, I guess. Like the
Yeah.
darks are really dark, the lights are really light. And it's very obvious what's light, what's dark. And it removes a lot of the detail as well. Those older photographs, like they're not super high def, so you can't get lost in the nitty gritty. It's almost like you're already squinting at it. I love painting from Polaroids and older photos for that reason. It kind of does some of the simplification for you. You
Yeah.
know, there's no eyelashes in a Polaroid. It's there's a line for sort of that dark part on the top of your eye. Yeah, and I think in these paintings, especially the one with the towel, that was me as a baby. I do see some of those sort of rectangular shapes like around the nose and in the hand. And I remember doing that and being like, yes, like this is what I want to do.
So then the second breakthrough I love because it's so specific. It was a specific course that just she got to at just the right time with just the right information for what she needed. Now, one thing I'll say about this is sometimes you need to be, ready to receive certain messages. So I've had like books and stuff where the first time I read them, it didn't do anything for me because I just wasn't ready. I wasn't progressed enough. But then after more practice, after learning more fundamental skills, I come back to those books and suddenly their messages, I'm ready to receive them. So, there's lots of great books and courses out there, but keep working on your fundamental skills and then you'll be more and more ready to receive all the information. So anyway, here's Emily's second breakthrough.
2021 was where I think I did plateau a little bit and I was a little lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't super happy with where my work was. I just felt like it wasn't improving at, a steady rate anymore. And then
Mm-hmm.
I took that, or I audited that Greg Manches class. So I didn't even take the class. I just watched him teach and, critique other like actual students' work. But just watching, I learned so much. I sort of had this shift in what my ideal style was or what I was going for. I think in my earlier years, I really liked Jenny Saville. I mean, I still love her work, but that was sort of my ideal. And when I took Greg Manches's class, my world was sort of opened up to these great illustrators like Leyendecker and Dean Cornwell. And I think if you look at JC Leyendecker's work, you'll see um, you'll see that I'm inspired by his work with the flat brushes and the shapes. So it was like every class, 100 light bulb moments for me. I really recommend, and I try and do the same thing on my channel where I want to give these light bulb moments to other people. I want them to, get to where they want to go faster, hopefully. And because I think there's just these little things that if you think about them in a certain way, it's like, oh, okay, this is how to do it. And one of those things was using a flat brush to indicate planes, and specifically cutting across the form. I think usually we tend to paint with the direction of the form, so almost like wood grain, like we go in the direction. And
Yeah.
Greg said, no, don't be scared to just cut right across it. And that was like a ding moment for me. And I
Uh,
can even like point it out in my paintings and be like, see, like the bridge of the nose, I'm using
yeah.
the brush, I'm going horizontal instead of down the bridge. I tend to take the brush up these planes instead of just being like, oh, I'm just gonna. That was a huge jump for me, just thinking about it in that way.
So then the third breakthrough, which is probably my favorite one, because something I love about these is they're each so different, these breakthrough moments. We had Polaroids, we had a specific course, and then this third one is just a challenge.
I think like I did that Stand By Me portrait,
Hmm.
and I look back and like I do like it. I think if I did it now, it would be maybe a little cleaner, a little more thought through. But I was really frustrated when I was painting that portrait and when I was painting other portraits around the time. So I was like, okay, I want to get better at this. I want to just, forget about doing the 1,000 things at once like I like to do. I want to focus on getting better at portraits, especially in gouache. So I think this painting in particular, I was like, you know what? I need to do a lot more of these because I'm not super happy with how it turned out, or I wasn't really happy with the process. It has helped the most, I think, out of anything. I still haven't finished the challenge, and that's something that I'm gonna make a few videos on, like just finishing this challenge. I think I'm on like 85,
Wow.
but looking through the book, the growth is insane. And not to, like toot my own horn, but it's just you can see the progression just because I put in the hours and I was building those pathways. I was just doing it and doing so much of it. And instead of, being like, oh, this I didn't really like how this turned out. I don't want to do anymore. No, I'm gonna do a bunch more so that I
Yeah.
can learn, figure out what I like, what I don't like.
Is the challenge just a general like find 100 heads and try and paint them, or is it a specific 100 heads, or do you find your own heads
So
references?
I made a Pinterest board of like 100 references. I think there's more than 100 because I'm really loosey goosey with it. I was like, maybe not all of these will speak to me when I want to paint. Sometimes I sit down to paint and I'm like, this reference, I don't feel like it today. So there might be like 130 portraits in this Pinterest board. And yeah, I just go through and I pick them. But if other people are doing the challenge, they don't have to do those heads. And I'm not the first person to do the 100 heads challenge. I've seen other artists do it. Ahmed, I think, was the first to do the drawing of the
Okay,
100
right.
heads. I don't know if anyone else has done like painted 100 heads, but that's just what I really wanted to improve on. I was pretty satisfied with my drawn portraits, but
Right.
wanted to improve the painted portraits.
The the painting itself. Right.
Yeah, and I can send you the link to the Pinterest board and you can put it, anybody
Yeah,
can
then
go through.
yeah, I've drawn a couple of them already, so it's a really nice
Yeah,
board. Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like maybe I should. It's quite daunting though, isn't it?
it's
But
a
launch
lot of
into
these
it.
challenges. Yeah, it's like you have to finish in 10 days or a month, and I
Right.
just, I'll finish it when I finish it. But now I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah,
But going
yeah.
into it, I was very gentle with it. I was like, I can paint from this board, I can paint out of this board, the only rule is that it's 100 heads. That was kind of how I did it. That's
Yeah.
the only rule.
It's good. It's nice and simple, and I like the fact that
Yeah.
it's got no deadline, so you can just, ease in and out of it, but it's this thing you want to complete.
Yeah, and
Um,
there's a hashtag M's 100 heads that I've seen other people post their 100 heads portraits as well, which is really cool.
Now, there are a couple of things. Those are these breakthrough moments. But you've got to be there for those breakthrough moments to happen. And Emily is always going to be there for them. The reason why is number one, she's always practicing. So here she is talking about her sketchbooks.
I've kept sketchbooks for the past 10 years and like I have huge stack, and I think that's another reason I was able to progress. It's just being crazy about sketching all the time. Generally, I'll have like one main sketchbook and then like a watercolor one for doing some watercolor and gouache studies. Though I do use gouache in my regular sketchbooks. I don't think you need really great paper
Yeah.
necessarily for gouache, but yeah. And then there's also this line of, maybe I'm doing a painting and I'm calling it a sketch or I'm calling it a study, but it doesn't really, it's not anything less than like a finished piece. Um, but that being said, I do tend to sketch pretty much every day,
Hmm.
and and then I'll have ideas, or there'll be a certain reference or a certain thing that I really want to further push and paint.
So another reason that she's always going to be having these breakthrough moments is because she's not afraid to go out of her comfort zone and do ugly drawings.
When I was younger and really when my art wasn't as progressed, I actually had a sketchbook, like a secondary sketchbook that I only used ballpoint pen in. And the whole point was that it was an ugly sketchbook. I was like, this is just going to be my ugly sketchbook just to constantly be drawing. Don't worry about it. And I think that also helped me improve a little bit. One of the biggest things for me was like, okay, let me just remove my ego and just be totally aware that I'm going to make a ton of really bad art, like so many bad drawings, so many bad paintings. That's just part of the process. Like to get better, you just have to do it. I know some people say you have to stop thinking and enter the flow state, but I think like the true flow state is where I'm really thinking about it and really thinking about every brush stroke. And I want every brush stroke to count. I don't want there to be any wasted brush strokes, or at least I want to limit the amount of wasted brush strokes. So, and there is moments where, I put down a stroke and I'm like, oh, what happened there? I like that, or I don't like that. That's an ugly mark, or that's a mark that really did something to improve the painting. And I make a mental note of it.
More great insights from Emily in just a second. I wanted to mention we have our free portrait drawing workshop coming up. The links are below, and also our brilliant portrait drawing course. So check out the information in the description box below. So something that I think is pretty important to Emily's paintings is her discovery of gouache paint. Now, partly that's practical. You've got to use materials where you're going to really be able to paint a lot with them. And so if like oil paint is not going to allow you to do that, then maybe adding another material that will is important. But also gouache just lends itself to these kind of chunky shapes that she's interested in.
In school, I really had to work with oils. That's just sort of what everyone was using. I don't think we actually had to work with gouache at all in school. I think I went out and picked it up myself because I wanted to try it. And I was painting with oils in a very small apartment bedroom right next to my bed, and just the smells, the mess. Um, I had oil paints like I had oil paint on my bed sheets, and it was a lot, and I wanted something that didn't have all that fuss. But I hated gouache when I first started painting with it. I thought it was so frustrating. It's like when you're painting with a new medium or you're working with a new medium, you're like, man, I wish it was acting like that other medium. Like,
Yeah.
why is it not acting like oils? Well, because it's not oils. Um, but yeah, it's just keep using it and eventually you become friends. And I think even now, I still try and oil paint now and then. And it's the thing that I once loved about it was that softness, that blendability is now sometimes like, oh, I wish it wasn't doing that. And so I'm doing things like using, quick dry mediums, quick dry white, so that it acts more like gouache, which is funny
Right.
because when I started painting with gouache, I was like, why isn't it more like oils? But yeah, gouache definitely lends itself to that style. And so I think as I was painting with it more and more, things got more and more chunky, and my style just sort of grew in that direction to now when I work with any medium, I try and imitate that sort of look because I really like it. I talk about in my videos a lot making these pathways in your brain, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but I really do think that every time we sit down to draw, every time we sit down to paint, we are building these pathways like a web in our brain. And, the next time we paint, we can follow those same pathways, expand it. And I think eventually you have this big web that your brain
Yeah.
knows to follow. And that's sort of when you can go into a little bit of autopilot. But with art, you're constantly going to be able to improve. The world has so much to teach us. And I do think that whether it's watercolor, gouache, oils, drawing with graphite, anything, the same principles apply. And I think the pathways I'm making are going to apply to the other things as well. Like obviously there's slight differences in techniques and mediums, like you have to learn your medium. But, the planes, the light, the values, it's going to be there for all of them.
So I really recommend checking out Emily's channel. She is a good teacher of this stuff, but also she has got this learning mindset so that she's going to be constantly evolving and progressing as well, which is fun to watch. Plus, she can help with different materials. So if you're interested in markers or digital or gouache, etc. Also, I believe she has just completed her 100 Heads challenge. So let's go over and check out that video here.